Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the 4th episode of Airsoft Tech Talk. This is probably the quickest video I've ever had off of the last one, so I'm getting these videos banged out 2 in a row, man. Whoa. So anyway, what's going on over here? Not a whole lot actually. I'm gonna be getting work on a version 1 from Moz, and that'll be taking place probably next week. I've got other few little builds coming in, but nothing too special. I may make a video on them, I may not. I don't know how well you guys like those. So if you like those videos, the ones where I talk about a gun that I built and I show its chrono and I show it shooting, tell me, because I'll make more of them. But if you guys don't, then I just won't make more of them. I'll make them very rare. But also, I'll be going airsofting this Sunday in Chillicothe, Ohio at Fallen Warriors. So if you're going to be there, definitely hit me up. I'd like to run with you guys or chit chat and stuff like that. So if you're going to be there, definitely hit me up. But without further ado, let's get down to the questions. Diehard Airsofters asks, when it comes to internals, in general, which is the better brand, SHS, Lonex, or JG? And is there another brand you'd recommend for a specific part? So this question is really difficult to answer because you can't really pick a best brand in my opinion, because for all the brands out there, there's at least one thing that they make well, and SHS makes a lot of things well, and so does Lonex, and Lonex makes a lot of things bad, but so does SHS. So it's just really difficult to actually just narrow it down and say, okay, stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that cross over. Like a Lonex piston is good, but an SHS piston is good too, so they kind of cross over. Like a Lonex piston head is good, well, so is an SHS piston head. Like a Lonex cylinder head is good, well, so is an SHS cylinder head. There's just a lot of things that they go back and forth on, and there's a lot of things that they don't do well. Like Lonex gears, I don't like them. I just don't. They're not built well in my opinion. They're just not as strong as other gears. Like if I get a really good SHS gear set and I get a Lonex gear set like their everyday one, the SHS one's gonna beat them out. That's just what I've noticed before. I just don't like Lonex gears at all. In addition, you're also paying for that better product that has better QC in Lonex. You're paying for a better, a well-built motor, something that is more tuned well, something that doesn't have a bunch of flaws in it like SHS motors do. So you're definitely paying for what you get there, in my opinion. So there's just a lot of things that go back and forth, and I can't say for sure like, oh, SHS is best, Lonex is best, because there is no best. There's just things that they do well and things that they do bad. For a brand that I'd recommend outside of those ones that you suggested, I like ZCI motors a lot. So ZCI is a great brand in my opinion. Their barrels, their motors, their gears are pretty good, their springs are alright, their air nozzles are okay, stuff like that. But like I said, it's really difficult to just pick one brand out and say, yeah, you're the best because you do everything perfect, which no brand has done in my opinion, except like Riot and stuff like that. But they only make one thing, gears, and it's really hard to mess up there. Same thing with Black Talon Concepts. Everything they make is good. However, they only make one thing, MOSFETs. And if you're a company like SHS or Lonex and you make a bunch of stuff, it's kind of difficult to make everything perfect. So like I said, you just have to figure out what's best, and that's really where a lot of experience comes in for guys like me who've been doing this for 5 years. We just gotta know how to do it, and we just gotta know it works. Rendezvous Airsoft asks, I'm using an M120 spring, 13-to-1 gears, and a 16 TPA motor, and I'm still getting overspin. I also have a brand new cutoff lever. What is the best way to get rid of overspin without short stroking? So there's a lot of things that affect overspin. A worn-off cutoff lever is one of them, a weak spring is another one of them, and if you're doing something crazy like using a 14.8 volt LiPo, then you're more likely getting an overspin on this particular setup. However, let's assume that you have the right spring, an M120, that's not mislabeled to be an M110, so that's an M120. Let's assume you're using 11.1 volt LiPo and not going crazy with a 14.8 volt, which probably isn't crazy to some people, but on this build it'd be some pretty fierce rate of fire. Let's assume that the cutoff lever is good, and we'll just eliminate those things. Now, when you put in a new cutoff lever, you actually want to check to see if it's actuating properly. Is it too tight or is it too loose? Because both of those can cause semi-auto problems and overspin problems, and even lockup issues. So you want to make sure that your cutoff lever isn't too tight but isn't too loose. You're shimming the cutoff lever kind of. So if you screw the screw down all the way on the cutoff lever and it's too tight, then you're going to have to unscrew it a little bit, put some glue underneath of it on the screw, and screw it down to where the cutoff lever can actuate, but at the same time it doesn't move too much side to side. About 0.05 millimeters of space, just somewhere to where it's not super loose or to where it's not super tight. You just want to be able to move back and forth with ease. Let's also assume that your sector gear hits it at the right time. Some sector gears, they don't have the cam, it's not far out as some other ones. So if you're using like some old JG gears where the cutoff cam is worn down, it'll actually have overspin because it can't knock the cutoff lever all the way up to knock the trolley off the trigger contacts. Sometimes that's a problem, and I've noticed that with my P90. I put SHS 13-to-1 gears in it and it had no overspin. Put 18-to-1 stock gears in it, had tons of overspin. All I changed was the sector gear, that's it. And I went back to check it even. Sometimes weird things like that happen. But like I said, you want to check to see if it's actually knocking off at the right time, or if it even can. Another one would be to check the trolley. Right where the cutoff lever knocks it off, sometimes that place can get damaged, and that will cause overspin 2, 3, even sometimes 5 rounds in semi. So you want to make sure that that is in pristine condition and not torn up and frayed and all that stuff, because that will cause overspin. That's one of the big factors there. Other than that, if none of that works and none of that is your problem, then I would just probably throw in an M130 spring and just short stroke 2 teeth. Then you probably won't have overspin. But if you are completely unwilling to short stroke, there are things you can do to the cutoff lever to actually get it to throw the trolley off sooner. You can actually glue rubber on top of the cutoff lever, or you can put it on the trolley ledge, wherever you want, and it'll knock off sooner because they're closer together. You can also modify the cutoff lever to cut off the trolley sooner as well on where it contacts the sector gear. I'm sorry. But there's just limited things you can do, but anything that you're modifying the cutoff lever to work is probably an advanced modification that I've only done 2 or 3 times. I wouldn't say it's something that a beginner wants to try. You want to find the easiest way out as a beginner, I'd say. But just check those things, and if those things don't work, then message me because we'll figure it out.
Scully asks, how do I load a mid-cap?
Like this.
EL Tech in J asks, please tell me, are Prometheus barrels worth the money? And if they are, why?
Yes, Prometheus barrels are definitely worth the money in my opinion, if you get an actual Prometheus barrel, not some knockoff rebrand. So I definitely go check out Brill Armory or Clandestine Airsoft for real Prometheus barrels. I think Clandestine sells them, I don't know, but I'm positive Brill does, because I've almost bought some a couple times, but I don't really feel like spilling $60 to buy one. Anyway, yes, I do think they're good barrels, and I do think they're a nice thing to have in an AEG. Not necessary, but yet again, a nice thing. The reason why I think they're good, or why I know they're good, really, is the crowning on them is really nice, the finish on them is really nice, the way that they make them is very nice. They have very few flaws, actually, in the barrel. I know if you look down a microscope, you can see imperfections. That's where lapping and polishing come in. However, for a upgrade barrel, it's a really good barrel. And believe it or not, barrels actually do wear down, especially stock brass barrels. A stock brass barrel probably lasts about 1.5 to 2 years of good use before it starts to get all scratched up and scraped up from the BB. That can happen, believe it or not. Especially on high rate of fire setups or high FPS setups, it happens even quicker. I had a DMR for a little bit. I put a brass barrel in it, polished it up, and did all kinds of stuff to it. And I probably used that DMR in game twice. Like I probably used it in 2 games. And I probably fired maybe 200 rounds a game, and then I noticed my FPS dropping like crazy, and that was because the barrel was getting worn down like crazy. Put a brand new brass barrel in and it fixed the problem. That tells you how quickly they can go sometimes, especially in demanding subs where my DMR was like 550 FPS. So you can wear down barrels. Prometheus barrels are the most resistant. I've never seen one actually wear down. I had one for a long time and it never wore down, and I sold it, I think, somewhere, or I might have it in my closet, I don't know. But they don't wear down very easily at all, mainly because they're stainless steel. But definitely worth the purchase, definitely a good barrel, and definitely good for any setup for the most part. Just don't buy a 6.01, please, don't do that. Buy at least a 603, depending on what your setup is, that is. But yeah, definitely a good barrel.
Ben's King asks, how did you get into airsoft?
Great question, because I think this is the first time anybody's ever asked me this particular question. So, how did I get into airsoft? Well, it started all about 6 years ago, maybe 7, so I'm gonna say 6 years ago. I was at a Wednesday night church service at my old church, and one of my friends came up to me and asked me if I wanted to come to his house, and it was for us a sleepover, and we were gonna play games and Xbox and stuff like that, and also play airsoft. And so I was like, alright, I'll think about it. So I went home, asked my parents, and they said sure, and I was kind of shocked because they knew what airsoft was, and I didn't think they'd want me to be shooting other people with airsoft guns while I'm getting shot at. So they were perfectly fine with the idea. So my dad and I went down to Walmart, and with $170 that I had at the time, I bought a gun, and this isn't all $170, but I bought a gun, a couple mags, CO2, and a holster. That's an iPro. That's about all I bought, and that was like 70 or 80 bucks back then, 6 years ago back then. But I went to the game. I had a fun time because there was about 20 people there, all about the same age as I was at the time, so around 12. And we just had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and from there I just skyrocketed. So that's how I got into airsoft, and everybody has their own little story, and that's my little story. So that does it for the questions. That was 5, and one was kind of a blooper one, but I wanted to throw it in there just cause. However, with the last video, the episode 3 of Airsoft Tech Talk, I asked a question to you guys with what you want me to do with the gun I had laying around, and everybody wants a DMR. That's what everybody was voting for. There was a few people who wanted it to be a stubby and a DSG and all that stuff, but DMR did have the deciding factor, so we're going to go with the DMR. But until next time, I'll see you guys later, and this was Airsoft Tech Talk, episode 4.